I never dreamed a simple piece of paper pinned to my front door could spark one of the most gratifying acts of revenge I'd ever know, but there it was, a wedding invitation. It wasn't addressed to me, yet it boldly listed my ancestral home as the venue for a stranger's ceremony. At first I thought it was a peculiar prank, but the elegant cream cardstock with its gold, embossed script was far too lavish for a jest. The names, Rebecca and James Thornton, were unfamiliar, yet this invitation declared their wedding would unfold in my backyard in just 3 weeks. Standing on my porch, my morning coffee cooling in my grip, confusion morphed into disbelief, then flared into white, hot fury. I'm Michael Foster, a 38-year-old architect who recently returned to my hometown of Willowbrook to restore my grandmother's Victorian farmhouse after her passing 6 months ago. The estate, a breathtaking Baker Haven, had been in our family for over a century, its gardens once celebrated in 1980s Home and Garden magazines. My grandmother, Eleanor Foster, a revered botanist, had crafted the grounds into a masterpiece of native flora and heirloom roses. When I inherited the property, I took a sabbatical from my Chicago firm to honor her legacy by reviving its former splendor. The house needed work: leaky roof, finicky plumbing, and gardens overgrown from years of neglect during Gran's illness. But beneath the wear lay a gem waiting to shine. I brought the invitation inside and dialed the number printed at the bottom. After a few rings, a flustered woman answered, "Thornton, Caldwell Wedding, Rebecca speaking," her voice syrupy with forced charm. I calmly explained the apparent mix-up about her chosen venue. "Oh, you must be calling about parking," she said breezily. "We've arranged for guests to park along Maple Lane, so your driveway stays clear." My patience vanished like mist in July. "No, Miss Thornton," I said sharply, "I'm calling because you've scheduled your wedding at my private home without my consent. I'm Michael Foster, the owner of the property listed on your invitation." A tense silence followed before Rebecca's tone turned razor sharp. "This is absurd. I paid the venue fee to the Willowbrook Heritage Association. It's all arranged. The Foster Gardens is a registered historical venue. It's on the town website." I pinched my nose, a headache brewing. "My property was never registered with any heritage group," I explained. "It's my private residence, and no permission was ever granted." Rebecca's laugh sliced through the line. "I have a contract that says otherwise. Take it up with Cynthia Morgan at the HOA. I have 200 guests arriving in 3 weeks, many from out of state. This venue will be ready." Before I could respond, she hung up, leaving me staring at my phone in stunned silence. The Willowbrook Homeowners Association. I wasn't part of any HOA. Gran had deliberately bought this land outside the boundaries of the neighboring planned community. A quick online search revealed a polished website for the Willowbrook Heritage Association, showcasing historic properties available for wedding rentals. There, in vivid detail, was my grandmother's home, dubbed Foster Gardens, Victorian elegance for your special day. It boasted of lush gardens, a charming gazebo, and a preserved community treasure. My blood boiled as I scrolled through recent photos of my property, taken without my knowledge. The site listed Cynthia Morgan as the booking coordinator, with rental fees starting at $4,000. I knew Cynthia Morgan, the Willowbrook Estates HOA president, from a brief encounter when I moved in. She'd arrived with a stack of community guidelines insisting they applied to my land. I'd tossed them in the recycling after clarifying my property was outside her domain. Grabbing a jacket, I drove to the HOA office, a tidy brick building in Willowbrook Estates. The receptionist, Ashley, greeted me with practiced cheer. "I need to see Cynthia Morgan now," I said, my tone clipped. Her smile wavered as she checked her screen. "Do you have an appointment? Ms. Morgan's busy with the spring planning committee." I leaned forward. "Tell her Michael Foster is here about the unauthorized use of his property as a wedding venue. I'll wait." 10 minutes later, I was ushered into a conference room where Cynthia sat at the head of an oval table flanked by 4 others whose expressions ranged from curious to hostile. Her blonde bob was impeccable, her navy blazer crisp, and her pearl necklace gleamed as she turned to me. "Mr. Foster," she said with a smile that never reached her cold blue eyes, "what's the issue?" The feigned concern grated. "The issue, Ms. Morgan," I replied evenly, "is that you're advertising my home as a wedding venue without my permission, taking money for bookings, and letting strangers plan events on my land." A murmur rippled through the room, but Cynthia's face remained a mask. "A misunderstanding," she said smoothly. "The Foster property was added to our Heritage Sites program last year. Your grandmother signed the agreement." She nodded to a man who slid a document across the table. I scanned it, spotting a clumsy forgery of Grand's signature, dated 3 months before her death when she was in hospice, barely able to lift a pen. "This is forged," I said, my pulse hammering. Gran was in hospice, heavily medicated and incapable of signing anything. She'd never have agreed to this. She bought this land to avoid HOA control. I dropped the paper like it was toxic. "Cancel all bookings, remove my property from your website, and refund everyone you've misled." Cynthia's smile turned predatory. "That's a serious accusation, Mr. Foster. The agreement is legally binding, witnessed by 2 board members. Your grandmother knew maintaining a historic property requires community support." A woman beside her, Sharon Peterson, nodded eagerly. "The Heritage Sites program preserves Willowbrook's character while funding upkeep. It's a win-win. I made air quotes. I've received $0 for upkeep." "Where's the money going?" Uneasy glances darted around the table. Cynthia straightened her pen. "A reserve fund was set up. We planned to discuss improvements once you settled in. Bookings were made during the transition after your grandmother's passing." "How many?" I asked, my voice low. Cynthia blinked. "Excuse me. How many bookings for my property?" Sharon jumped in. "Just 3 this season. The Thornton wedding this month, 2 more in June and July. Tasteful events, I assure you." I laughed, humorless. "I'll speak to my attorney. Start calling those people and explain you've been selling access to property you don't control." As I turned to leave, Cynthia's voice stopped me. "Mr. Foster, I advise against making this messy. Willowbrook Estates represents 300 homeowners with significant influence. The Heritage Program drives tourism dollars. It's better to play ball." The veiled threat shadowed me as I drove to James Harrington's law office, my grandmother's attorney and a family friend. In his wood, paneled office, James, a weathered man in his 60s, grew alarmed as I recounted the situation. "Outrageous," he muttered, studying the forged agreement I'd photographed. "Eleanor's signature had a distinctive loop. This isn't even close. He promised a cease and desist letter but warned. Cynthia Morgan's powerful. Her husband's on the city council, her brother. In-law's a judge, and the HOA sways local businesses. This won't be just legal, it's political." I nodded, suspecting as much. "What's their angle? Even with multiple bookings, $20, $0. $0, $30, $0. $0 a year seems small for the risk." James steepled his fingers. "It's not just money. Your land's the last large parcel outside HOA control. A 5-acre green space amid dense development. The Heritage Program's likely a step toward gaining leverage over it." He handed me a folder Gran had left, containing land surveys, deeds, and records of her rejecting developer and HOA offers. A letter from the city, dated a year before her death, confirmed her property was safe from rezoning or eminent domain. "She knew they'd try," I murmured, feeling her foresight. James nodded. "Eleanor was sharp. She left you the tools to fight." Driving home, I realized a legal letter wouldn't stop the Thornton wedding in 3 weeks, and Cynthia wouldn't back down easily. Her reputation and finances were at stake. As evening fell, I sat on the porch with bourbon, eyeing the gardens, spring bulbs bursting in chaotic beauty, the gazebo sturdy despite needing paint. I understood why brides coveted this spot, but that didn't justify trespass or profiteering. A battered pickup pulled up, and Walter Jenkins, Grand's retired groundskeeper, stepped out, his wiry frame moving with practiced ease. "Heard you're tangling with the Morgan woman," he called. News spread fast in Willowbrook. I offered him a chair. Gran would be furious, he said, declining bourbon for water. They've been circling this place for years, first griping about grass height, then pushing community standards. Eleanor told Cynthia to pound sand. I smiled, picturing Gran's defiance. So now they're forging her signature and selling my land. What do I do about this wedding? Walter sipped thoughtfully. 3 options: let it happen and fight later, get your lawyer to stop it and deal with an angry bride and 200 guests, or get creative and make this place unappealing for a fancy wedding. His eyes gleamed. Gran always said, be spectacularly unreasonable with unreasonable people. Make it unforgettable. Over the next hour, Walter detailed Cynthia's reign over the HOA, turning it into her personal fiefdom with strict rules to silence dissent. The heritage program started legitimately but grew shady, adding properties without consent under the guise of community preservation. Funds vanished into administrative costs. Most folks are too scared to fight, Walter said. Cynthia's husband uses city codes to punish businesses. Her circle's tight. Judge, council, you name it. But bull is only win when no one pushes back. His words lit a fire. I wouldn't just protect my land. I'd make Cynthia's scheme a public spectacle. The next morning, the HOA attorney responded to James's letter, claiming the forged agreement was binding and threatening legal action if I disrupted events. I told James to hold off. I've got a plan, less legal, more effective. I researched Rebecca Thornton, learning she was a realtor tied to Cynthia's network. Her fiancé, James Caldwell, a developer of Willowbrook Estate's newest section. This wedding was a power play. No wonder Cynthia was invested. I contacted local businesses unaffiliated with the HOA, explaining my plight. Many, resentful of Cynthia's tactics, were eager to help. By week's end, I had my strategic demonstration ready. The Saturday before the wedding, I went silent, letting Cynthia think I was cowed. At 7:30 a.m., just within noise laws, 3 trucks rolled in. A portable toilet company set up 20 bright blue units across my lawn. A pest control firm planted yellow treatment in progress signs. A demolition crew unloaded a bulldozer, hinting at major work. I'd warned neighbors about landscaping renovations, and most were sympathetic, fed up with Cynthia's overreach. Curtains twitched in Willowbrook Estates homes. Within 30 minutes, onlookers gathered. At 45 minutes, Cynthia's Mercedes screeched in. She stormed out, sunglasses perched in her perfect hair, tennis outfit pristine. "What is this?" she demanded, waving at the chaos. I held a clipboard, smiling. "Morning, Cynthia. Just prepping for major renovations. New drainage, koi pond, full replanting. Starts Monday." Her face cycled through shock to horror. Monday, the Thornton. Caldwell wedding Saturday. I feigned surprise. "Oh, the event you booked without permission. Terrible timing, but as this is my property, I'm free to improve it." I gestured to the toilets. "Those are for the crew, here for 3 weeks. Rebecca Thornton arrived, clutching her phone, distraught. "What's happening?" Neighbors called about toilets and pest signs. Cynthia, struggling for control, said, "Rebecca, darling, a misunderstanding with Mr. Foster. We'll sort it out." She hissed at me, "Be reasonable, Michael. We can negotiate." I shook my head. "No misunderstanding, Cynthia. You forged Grand's signature and sold my land. I could sue for fraud, but I'll just improve my property instead." To Rebecca I said, "I'm sorry you're caught in this. Cynthia had no right to offer my home. Your payment was taken under false pretenses." Rebecca turned on Cynthia, furious. "You said it was arranged. You showed me pictures." Cynthia stammered, "A technicality." I cut in, showing Rebecca the forged document. This was signed when Gran was in hospice, barely conscious. The HOA took your money without my consent. Rebecca paled. I paid $8,000, the rentals, catering, flowers. Everything's for this garden. Where do I find a venue in 7 days? Her voice drew onlookers. Cynthia tried to steer her away, but Rebecca exploded. You promised the perfect venue, and it was a lie, too. 100 guests, some from California. Where do they go? Your backyard. More cars arrive. Rebecca's mother, her planner, friends. Spreading the story. Cynthia's fraud, the forged signature, the non-existent venue. Watching her authority unravel was satisfying, though I felt for Rebecca and James, who arrived looking stunned. I pulled James aside. My issues with Cynthia, not you, your victims. He rubbed his face. Rebecca's planned this for a year. What now? I handed him a card for Willow Creek Lodge, which had a last-minute cancellation. It's not identical, but it's beautiful, and they're offering a discount because they're appalled by Cynthia. Call them. He shook my hand. This is decent of you. Walter, among the spectators, gave a thumbs up. The spectacle worked. Cynthia's scheme was exposed publicly. By afternoon, social media buzzed with photos of toilets and signs. Other property owners shared similar HOA pressures. The HOA board called an emergency meeting, and Cynthia faced scrutiny over the program's finances. $50,000 in fees diverted to clubhouse upgrades and lavish dinners. James called Sunday, chuckling. Cynthia's on leave pending investigation. The HOA issuing apologies and refunds. The city confirmed your properties outside their control. Rebecca's wedding moved to the lodge. Minimal drama. On the wedding day, I planted roses with Walter, who'd returned to help restore Gran's gardens. She'd be proud. He said, you protected her legacy with spine and heart. A year later, the gardens bloomed vibrantly. I hosted a neighborhood party, and even former HOA members marveled at the restoration. Cynthia and her husband left for Florida, hit with probation and fines for fraud. Rebecca sent champagne and a thank you note. You saved our wedding and exposed the truth. I placed their photo on my mantle, a reminder that justice sometimes takes a winding path, but with Gran's wisdom I'd secured her land, and made a point no one in Willowbrook would forget.